Greetings and welcome to Raga Newz, a breakdown of some news from Jamaica, from the Caribbean, and from the United States. I am Ragashanti. Today is Thursday, June 18th, 2026. Big things are going on in the politics in Jamaica, and some things are going up here in the United States. So we'll get into it right now. Golding tells the Prime Minister to fire a cabinet member. Opposition leader Mark Golding is calling on Prime Minister Andrew Holness to remove Dr. Andrew Wheatley from the cabinet. This comes after the Integrity Commission recommended that Wheatley be charged with illicit enrichment. Golding's argument is blunt. A minister facing that type of prosecution, in his words, cannot remain in cabinet. So all eyes are now on the Prime Minister to see what will be his response. Human rights alarm over the U.S.-Jamaica deportation deal. The group Jamaicans for Justice has raised serious concerns about Jamaica's agreement with the United States to accept third country nationals. That is, people who are not Jamaican, for temporary accommodation on the island. The group is warning that the arrangement could expose Jamaica to human rights violations and significant legal risks. Jamaican lawmakers are upset as the University Hospital of the West Indies boss skips Parliament again. Frustration boiled over in Parliament after the CEO of the University Hospital of the West Indies skipped a sitting again. Legislators are angry that the penalty for ignoring a summons from Parliament is too small, and they're now calling for much stronger sanctions to make sure people actually show up when Parliament issue them a summons, $18 billion school repair. The damage from Hurricane Melissa is still being counted, and it's steep. The repair bill for schools has now reached $18 billion, but the Minister of Education has indicated that the funding is in place to get it done. A warning about pit latrines. Water, Climate Change and Environment Minister Matthew Samuda is sounding the alarm on something many of us overlook: backyard pit latrines in communities with a high water table. He is referring to those pit latrines as being among the greatest environmental risks facing Jamaica because of their capacity to contaminate the water supply. Basically, a water level underground and the pit latrine, pit toilet, them can contaminate the water where we end up a drink when it comes to the surface. That is serious. That is pretty serious. Crime and justice in Jamaica. Clarendon climbs to 18 murders. Over in Clarendon, the parish has now recorded 18 murders so far this year. That is one more than the same time last year, an increase of almost 6%. Police, led by Senior Superintendent Shane McCullough, say they have strengthened their presence across central Jamaica to fight back and reassure residents. Clarendon, I'll go through it, though. Another curfew in eastern Kingston. The security forces have imposed yet another 48-hour curfew in sections of Kingston Eastern Police Division as they keep up the pressure in communities they say are flashpoints for violence. If to the Jamaicans who live in those areas, you may want to plan your day around this curfew, so it's gonna be on for 48 hours. Blogger charged after carnival party shooting. In the entertainment space, popular blogger Jay Frey has been hit with a string of serious charges: wounding with intent, shooting with intent, using a weapon to commit a felony, and possession of a prohibited weapon. This follows a shooting incident at the Big Wall Carnival Party. Of course, we heard about that, and we going to be paying attention to that to see how that turned out, particularly to see if certain people receives, more severe punishment, while others who were found in similar circumstances get pretty much let off. That's a salient issue right there. Unknown to economy and the money, relief at the pump. Some good news for drivers in Jamaica. Gas prices came down effective Thursday, June, they should be 18th, giving motorists a little breathing room at the pump after weeks of pressure tied to global oil prices. Well, the whole world is going through this, in terms of what was going on in the war. And of course, Jamaica is no exception in this regard, but apparently they're going to experience some relief. The US dollar. The US dollar ended trading on Wednesday at $158.62, down 35 cents, according to the Bank of Jamaica. So if the dollar is appreciating in value, that's always a good thing for Jamaica. Entertainment. Want to say rest in peace to Stranger Cole. We pause to remember a true pioneer. Reggae legend Stranger Cole passed away last Thursday, June the 11th, at the age of 83. One of the foundation voices of foreign music, his catalog helped shape the sound that put Jamaica on the map. Walk good, Stranger Cole, big up yourself. Munga turns the page. After a 9-year legal battle, dancehall artist Munga Honorable says that chapter is finally closed and he's locked in now on new music, international performances, and reconnected with his fans around the world. A fresh start for the reputed gangster Ras. That's what he calls himself. Alkaline on top. On the charts, Alkaline's Gyal Good is sitting at number 1 on the Jamaica Dancehall chart for the week of June 12th to 18th. The Vendetta Boss still moving the needle and must be commended because he has been sustaining a healthy reputation and respect and credibility in the very competitive field of dancehall, and Alkaline's catalog at this point speaks for itself. Taurus Riley, big singer, dropped from the big show Best of the Best in Miami. Taurus Riley has been pulled from the 2026 Best of the Best Music Fest lineup in Miami after the festival objected to him booking a separate free show in Fort Lauderdale just days later. Manchester crowns a new festival queen, and some festival season, Dr. Melissa Flinch, I should say, has been crowned Miss Manchester Festival Queen 2026, taking the sash as we head deeper into Jamaica's independence celebrations. Big up Dr. Melissa Flinch right there. In the Caribbean, Trinidad wins a seat at the world's top table. Big diplomatic news for the region. Trinidad and Tobago has been elected to the rotating seat on the United Nations Security Council. That gives the Caribbean a real voice in the room where the biggest global security decisions get made. But is Trinidad going to represent the Caribbean there? I don't know, because Trinidad's Prime Minister, she's interesting to say the least, and sometimes she doesn't come over as if she holds other Caribbean nations in sufficient regard. Barbados and Guyana get connected. Two big moves linking Barbados and Guyana. Inter-Caribbean Airways has launched its first ever direct service between the two countries. And remember, from July the 1st, Barbados and Guyana, their citizens, will be able to travel between the two nations using just a national ID card. No passport required. All right, so we'll see some integration there and some diplomatic cooperation between nations there in the Caribbean, which we hope will turn out good. Guyana's oil-powered boom. Guyana remains the fastest-growing economy in the entire region in 2026, riding their oil boom that's reshaping their tourism, aviation, and economic power right across the Caribbean. I want to big up Guyana for that. They deserve it. Guyana's gone through a whole lot economically over the decades, and this is good for them. Still in Guyana, though, a major cocaine bust. On the security front, authorities in Guyana have charged 3 men in connection with the trafficking of more than 70 kilograms of cocaine. 2 of the men have been remanded in custody. Immigration news in the United States. Haiti TPS decision is days away. This is the big one for the Haitian community regarding the United States Supreme Court being expected to rule by early July on whether the Trump administration can strip temporary protected status, TPS status, TPS, temporary protected status, from roughly 350,000 Haitians and about 6,000 Syrians. Just this week, lawyers for the TPS holders asked the court to throw the case out entirely, pointing to newly disclosed documents they say show Homeland Security relied on false statements and skipped proper consultation. A massive amount is riding on this ruling, and the Caribbean and, of course, the Haitian community and the Syrian community, they are waiting with bated breath to see what the ruling from the Supreme Court will be. This one is big for them. Other big news with the United States. Historic US and Iran deal signed to end the war. The headline that's traveling around the world: President Trump signed an agreement with Iran on Wednesday, inked at the Palace of Versailles in France during the G7 summit, that calls for Iran to dilute its stockpile of highly enriched uranium in exchange for the lifting of oil and some financial sanctions. The Strait of Hormuz is reopening, and the first tankers of Iranian crude have already sailed out since the US naval blockade began 2 months ago. G7 leaders are calling it a historic opportunity. There's a 60-day window now for the final details. Why it matters to us: this is the same Middle East conflict that the Bank of Jamaica blamed for pushing up fuel and electricity costs in Jamaica and, of course, in other places all over the world. So a real de-escalation could ease the pressure on the pockets of Jamaicans and other nationals all over the world. The Department of Justice steps in for Elon Musk's artificial intelligence plan. In a boost to Elon Musk, the U.S. Justice Department is moving to dismiss a civil rights lawsuit over air pollution from his XAI data center, a $20 billion facility accused of illegally running dozens of gas turbines to power its artificial intelligence operations. We're going to see more of these suits, I guarantee it, because the AI competition is just starting, it's just warming up, and it requires a lot of power. So, and a lot of communities are not really pleased with the extracting of resources that these plants require to generate the power for their various AI enterprises. So we're going to see more of these. Rapper Mystical gets 20 years in the courts. Grammy-nominated rapper Mystical has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for raping a woman at his Louisiana home back in 2022. Finally, this is news from the streets. Raga Newz has been informed that a few employees at a well-known hotel on the North Coast have been dismissed based on allegations, I should say, but the hotel would say that they confirmed that they were frolicking with the guests, as in an orgy. Yes, engaging in pleasure. And of course, that's a big no-no if you are a hotel employee. It's just standard protocol that hotels don't allow their guests to engage in those things. So if indeed they found that out, we could understand why they were fired. That is a roundup of the news right now. I will have more at another time. Thank you for hanging out with yours truly, Ragashanti, on Raga Newz. Take care of yourselves. Bye.